joined by McKenzie Partner Richard Mugni to discuss Francophone West Africa, where there's been several new developments in the mining industry. Richard, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you start by painting us a picture of what's been happening in the Francophone mining?
Yeah. Well, we have various countries which have revisited their mining codes, and it's essentially due to political elections and also to loss of revenues in the last years due to price drop, and also to a lot of local attention by local populations to making sure that the profits would not be exported completely, but that there was some value kept by local industries. So it implied that some of the codes have imposed the use of local companies for logistics, for example, but it has also, in many countries, revisited the level of royalties.
There's been a lot of junior mining companies flocking to West Africa in particular for its gold resources. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. These companies have had opportunities to, let's say, invest in minor operations where big operators would not have the same margins. So due to the prices of the gold, which is still high and continues to climb, these companies, once they are well operated, continue to make significant profits. So this is why it has attracted a lot of appetite from them for, let's say, second use mine and or let's say minor operations.
Okay, going back to some of the Francophone West African countries that you deal with, can we expect any political changes to take place in 2020?
Yes, as you may know, there are a lot of elections taking place this year in Francophone West Africa, and it will certainly have an impact on how mining codes are revisited. If you take example of Burkina Faso, for example, Burkina Faso is revisiting its mining code, and this has an impact on all these elections have an impact on the mining industry. All these countries, as I mentioned earlier, will want to make sure that higher royalties are collected, just because their balance sheet is not that good for the time being. So we can anticipate that these countries will try to implement such changes. What we know, however, is that there will be a limitation to that. They still need to attract investment in their countries, because mining is not only a way to invest, but it implies infrastructure, and this is generally infrastructure that brings a lot of investment in the country, and also helps structuring the logistic and the logistic chain in these countries.
And then more broadly speaking about legislation in Francophone Africa, can you comment a bit on the regulatory environment in the mining industry?
Well, what we can see is that there is a form of standardization of regulations. So one country, when you see that one country has implemented changes to its mining code, you can anticipate that neighboring countries, because what we know is that, I mean, as a lawyer, that all countries talk together, or I mean, just are interested in what the others do and what would be the outcome. So what we can see is, let's say, a form of standardization of the regulations in all countries, which in a way is extremely good for investors or mining company, because you can anticipate what will be the regime and that will be applied to your investment. So this has a form of positive impact on mining companies and investments.
Okay, and then honing in directly on the DRC, can you tell me a bit more about how the political environment has changed there? It's obviously one of Africa's biggest cobalt hubs, and the cobalt price has decreased significantly. in the recent past. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, the price has dropped significantly, and this has forced all mining companies to revisit their strategy for DRC. We know that DRC, is a government with 65 ministers, I think. So it's a complicated environment, but all operators know that from long. It's also full of opportunities, and what is happening now is that I think, and it's not now, but it continues since the adoption of the new mining code. Everybody is waiting to understand how this mining code will be actually applied. The law exists, but it lacks a lot of decrees to be fully enforced. So there is a lot of discussions between mining companies, with the help of law firms as well, to interpret and make sure that it will not affect adversely all operations. And I think that's in the next month the answer that is expected from mining companies, to make sure that they will really invest in those operations, especially in cobalt, due to its drop.
Okay, and just to add on to this, can you tell me how the mining regulations have affected investor sentiment in the DRC?
Well, it has made everybody extremely cautious, because first of all, you need to find financing, and to find financing, the first thing that a banker would ask you is to make sure that you can collect your profits, you can repay the loans. So it's a bit boilerplate, but that's the reality, and that's completely applicable to DRC nowadays.
Perfect. Richard, thank you so much for sharing your insights with me today.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To watch more insightful videos, please visit Mining Review Africa's YouTube page and click subscribe.